PNG prisons lack infrastructure and facilities to properly rehabilitate inmates. Operations at Ok Tedi suspended following death of a worker. And European Union calls for more action against gender-based violence in PNG.
This is National MTV News with Meriba Tulo.
Good evening. It's the last full working day of the week, and this is Friday's news. Papua New Guinea's prisons lack the infrastructure and facilities needed to properly rehabilitate and transform prisoners who commit different levels of crimes and who all end up at the same place of incarceration. Southern Region Correctional Service Director Henry Wavik said this in his address to prisoners today at their dedication service. The theme for this year is Forget the Past and Look Forward to the Future.
The Correctional Service's main agenda is to rehabilitate and successfully reintegrate prisoners to go back out into the world and become law-abiding citizens. However, infrastructure and skills are needed for them to achieve the agenda. Wavik highlighted that prisoners who commit the same offences should be locked up in the same area. However, this isn't the case in PNG. He also said the warders need skills to rehabilitate prisoners who commit murder, rape or smokes drug.
So we talk on the true sense of rehabilitation. And we put him all corruption come along offenses all. Talk picture. If you look at corruption man got heavy wanton drugs. Heavy wanton drugs. Number of people rehabilitate him all along, change passing long one heavy blood drugs.
Despite this downside, spiritual rehabilitation and reformation is still a key priority, especially for the Bomana Correctional Service. Today, they opened their Prison Fellowship Ministry program and dedicated the institution's operation for this year.
Time you make him have talk dedication long me is separation. You just cut off. When him kind umbilical cord is stabbed, you just cut him off and you move ahead. Now turning back.
Meanwhile, Bomana Prison will soon see some infrastructure built to serve the prisoners and the warders. Mosby Northeast MP Labi Amayu, in his recent visit to Bomana, pledged 1.4 million kina to the prison.
I'm also saying this year 2016, Bomana I start creating new pathway, long achieving this theme like me.
Basenata Yama, National MTV News.
Operations at Ok Tedi mine in Western Province have been suspended following the death of a worker late Thursday afternoon. The incident occurred only a week after normal operations recommenced following an 8-month suspension.
Ok Tedi resumed operations on March the 1st, 2016, with around 800 workers returning back onto site. At the time, OTML CEO Peter Graham had spoken to National MTV News to outline the mine's immediate focus, a commitment to safety.
Our immediate priorities are very clear. That's the safety of all of our employees. With people having been away from the site for so long, it's critical that we get everyone focused on the tasks at hand and they understand the risks they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, because we want to make sure that nobody gets hurt as we come back up.
Sadly, the mine suffered its first casualty late Thursday afternoon. According to a statement from OTML,
the incident occurred when a section of rock and dirt fell from the western wall of the mine into a sump located at the bottom of the pit. Unfortunately, one of our colleagues, who was attending to pit drainage, was unable to get clear of the flowing debris.
This morning, mine rescue personnel resumed their search for the worker's body. Relevant authorities have been notified, with investigations into the incident already underway.
Member for Goilala, William Samb, has hit out at banks and financial institutions, saying the existing business environment, as it relates to small businesses, is unfriendly. He maintains that while there is a push for SME development, the process involved in obtaining capital to grow small businesses remains the biggest obstacle for rural people. The search for 9 people lost at sea between Manus and East Sepik waters last month has now entered its second week. Manus Acting Provincial Police Commander Senior Inspector David Yapu said 2 teams of policemen returned on Tuesday this week after 8 days of an unsuccessful search and rescue mission. The 9 people lost at sea were returning to Wewak late last month after selling betel nut at Lorengau, but failed to arrive at their destination. Senior Inspector Yapu is seeking assistance from the National Disaster Office to assist Manus Police conduct the search.
Only lusin Wewak na only come long Manus long Salimbuay. Salimbuay finish na only go back. Only go to 2 boat, 1 boat, 5 passengers, 9 and 4 and 60 horsepower. Yeah. Scenario ito only missing was it, but we highly suspect that it could be sea piracy because of the large substantial amount of money that they had in the possession. Demand long Loboy Manus is very high. So, people seeing opportunity. It's not only people from Wewak, we have people from Medellin, we have people from New Island. They travel all the way to Lorengau to do their sales for the betel nut and they go back. So Trango Olania, in fact, they return back with a large substantial amount of money here. We want the national GSTA at least also lot, step in from Alvi Mibla Lodisla all sets now.
It has been 1 month since the Kolwara section of the Highlands Highway collapsed under the onslaught of heavy rains, and the section still remains congested and difficult to pass. Landowners are charging commuters fees for safe passage, and there is frustration building among bus drivers who pay 100 kina. Police are on site providing security, while the Works Department is in the process of fixing the section. Bethany Harriman and MTV cameraman Maisen Hungito were at the Kolwara section this afternoon.
The Yonki Kolwara section still remains closed to the Highlands Highway commuters. It's been almost a month and 2 weeks. There is frustration and anger amongst bus drivers who are paying landowners for passage. Police are at the section to provide some level of security. Passengers get off PMV buses and walk to either side.
Government must look at the road. So I meet to you want a man, lead a man long country, you must look at me one driver me talk dong, but you must look away also. Fix him this road all the time. Government must look away. Put him all money come inside. Grand Brook long end. And police force must stop.
John Timby, a Hagen bus driver, expresses his frustrations with the government. The drivers say they fear the passengers' safety and buses, so they have to just pay.
Road block all Papa ground here. Only walk like kisim morning mipla go around lay. Only kisim 100 kina. Then come mipla come on Harbor Road again Brook. Only kisim 100 kina again. Then can mipla night mipla come on top. Only kisim 100 kina go on. Mipla carry money go house and 250 300.
A highway truck got bogged for nearly a week, causing more problems for the already congested traffic. It's 2 p.m. here at the Kolwara section, and a highway truck behind me that has been bogged for nearly a week is being removed. Now the section itself, the Kolwara section, has been closed off to the public for nearly a month. The National Works Department are here conducting surveys, and a new section might have to be cut on the other side. Those who are here at the site are demanding urgent government intervention. Bethany Harriman, National MTV News, Kainantu.
Police and Correctional Service personnel in Leh have put in place a combined special operations team to track down prisoners who escaped during the recent mass breakout. The special operation got underway last week. Leh Metropolitan Superintendent Anthony Wagambi Jr. said identifying the large number of escapees is now their main challenge.
Leh Police have a cell management system in place. The system was set up last year through the support of the Australian Federal Police. So far, they have the identifications of 31 prisoners out of the 57 prisoners.
31 of them are from those escapees.
Those are prisoners who went into the jail after the time the cell management system was put in place. Most of the escapees who are now on the run went into prison before the setup of the cell management system. and police don't have their personal details in the centralized cell management system. The combined operation from the CS and police personnel will help the officers identify escapees.
But otherwise, for identification purposes, police were the first receiver.
On Friday last week, the special operation arrested an escapee at Tumail, and on Sunday, another fugitive was apprehended, arrested, and charged with 3 homemade guns and ammunition. This escapee is from the previous mass breakout at Buimo last year. He has been on the run and is wanted by police for a number of armed robberies in the city. Police are continuing to track down more than 100 escapees still on the run. These are fugitives from the previous jail breakout at Buimo last year and escapees from the recent breakout where 87 prisoners escaped. Wagambi is calling on the public to provide police with information so that police can be able to apprehend and arrest those escapees. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Ley.
This is Friday's news. We'll be back with Lihir Islanders wary of not becoming another Misima, and the European Union calls for PNG to do more to stop gender-based violence. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. The Misima gold mine in Milne Bay province has again been featured prominently in most of the landowners' discussions on Lihir Island. 20 years of mining operations left the Misima people with very little to benefit from. The aftermath of the Misima mine has been used as a lesson for the Lihir people so they do not follow the same path. Edwin Fidelis reports.
Over the years, Misima has been featured prominently as an example of an operation that left little for landowners after mining ended. A few years after the mining activities ended in Misima, socio-economic standards of the people on the island dropped significantly. Infrastructures have crumbled and the way of life returned to what it was 20 years ago before the mine came.
So when the mine was here, all the buildings was good and they looked fine. It was a very beautiful place.
But for the Leir people, Misima provides a contrast and a lesson for the people on this gold-rich island. The landowners of Leir say they won't follow the same path as Misima, where 20 years of mining activities on the island left the people with nothing to benefit from.
Our leaders, like him, this la situation by come up Leir. Long life, long on Papa ground na, on people Leir.
The coming of the mine in Leir since 1995 has brought with it new developments. Mining benefits derived from the mine in terms of infrastructure, business investments, and the lifestyle of the people have changed noticeably. For the custodians of the land, it was a painful experience for them over the years as they try to hold a coalition together and to convince the government, the developers and the landowners to come to a common understanding.
We were invited by the initial agreements, 1995 agreement, maybe a 2007 agreement revised. Now things were not happening, and simply because our leaders only work leading all two entities here. Work boom.
Last Saturday marked the end of a 6-year-old conflict between the Nimamar local level government and the Lamala, the association representing the landowners. It was a 6-year tussle over ownership of mining benefits derived from mining operations on the island.
We plan by negotiate na sana one government na Lamala. Now me or Semlinda, me believe that me plan by sana buwan them na me plan by start lokisim or benefit me plan suppose lokisim long yes ego finish that me plan bin work lopay tasol na stop.
The reconciliation is one of the steps towards achieving the Leir destiny, a devised concept of sustainable livelihoods for the people to benefit from after mining activities and on the island. It is a concept that they believe will work. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News.
The Department of Provincial and Local Government Affairs officially launched its audit committee in Port Moresby today. This committee will acquit the use of public funds to ensure there is transparency in the delivery of goods and services at all levels of government. Eric Harupma with this report.
Department of Provincial and Local Level Government Affairs Acting Secretary Dixon Guina said the establishment of the department's audit committee is another milestone achievement of this organization.
We are now realizing what we had planned for in those years. So it's really realizing its achievement.
While highlighting the 2016 organization's budget outlook, he said there's a 90% decline in the delivery of goods and services to provincial and local level governments. Mr. Guna said this committee will ensure there is transparency and accountability in the delivery of goods and services to all levels of governments. Finance Secretary Ken Nangan, who is also the Audit Committee Chairman while launching this management tool, said it will help to improve the department's yearly budget performances.
Audit helps point out the things that we are doing which may not be correct according to procedures and helps us do the right thing.
This audit committee was mandated under Section 9 of the Public Finance Management Act. He said through this body, both internal and external audits will be conducted to ensure there's accountability at all levels.
The AGO have a total confidence that with the establishment of the audit committee and its high level of deliberation on the AG's audit observations will have greater impact on both the role of the AG and the department.
Jerry Wemin, an experienced independent auditor, said this management tool promotes good governance and minimizes fraudulent activities through reporting. He said corruption in the country increases because people fail to provide acquittals or report on their spending.
Of fraudulent activities, prosecutions and so on and so forth associated with fraud really drastically dropped.
The PLGA will be part of 42 organizations in the country to have an established audit committee in the department. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
The European Union ambassador to PNG has called for more action on violence against women and other gender-based violence in PNG. Ioannis Georkarakis Agriopoulos made the appeal at a human rights diplomacy event held today at the House Ruth Safe Shelter in Port Moresby. He and other members of the international community heard stories of victims and discussed with them how they can help women and children who have been abused.
Her story is just one out of 7 others, all from women who have come forward to share their story of how they sought refuge at the House of Ruth after running away from abusive partners, fathers and son. EU Ambassador Ioannis Georkarakis Agriopoulos, after hearing the stories of the victims, said that it was disappointing because PNG was a country that has experienced a decade of economic growth and development, but has not yet done any serious changes on dealing with violence against women and children.
Considerable economic development that the country enjoyed in the last decades. Unfortunately, this development was not translated in any social development connection with the protection of the rights of women and children.
For one victim, she had to run away from her abusive husband, who bashed her up regularly and even bashed their son when he was only 3 months old. She had slept from house to houses before finding House of Ruth, which she and many other victims called heaven on earth. Dorothy Koch, who was one of the victims and now a volunteer at the House of Ruth, says the safe shelter has helped more than 5,000 victims since it opened its doors in 2003. And that for victims who have looked at the law for justice, the legal system is not in the favor of victims.
But then if the witness doesn't want to come and testify, that's not in our favor.
EU ambassador says prevention is better than cure and the government needs to focus on how to eliminate GBV. He says that he applauded the government for its efforts, but he says to ensure that something is done, the government, the diplomatic community, development partners, international organizations, civil societies and the private sector needs to work together.
But we need to do something. We cannot continue to discuss that there is a problem.
Abuse of the children was something more important to them and something they all had issues with.
I was encouraging me long and me finding myself. It's a big like case me must bring him abuse him to picking in Mary where 12 years old, not 13 years old, when sleep one time therapy at home.
Adelaide Xerox Kari National, EMTV News.
Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru has signed a contract agreement for the construction of mobile police squad barracks in Yanguru, East Sepik Province. Maru said the establishment of a mobile squad was essential for the province as it would create a safer trading environment for investors seeking to invest in the province's commodities.
Maru said the contract agreement signed over to the Pacific Building Industry would see the establishment of a 45-man mobile squad barracks in the Yanguru district. He said the barracks was strategically placed there to cater for special security needs of major trade organizations over the border seeking to invest in the province's now thriving commodity pool.
Located in the barracks will basically cater for the special security requirements of the East and West Sepik provinces and the border area. Major investments like Frida River, investors coming into the Sepik economic zone who need special protection, those will be provided by the mobile members will be based in the mobile barracks. So this is an investment to prepare the Sepik provinces, East and West Sepik provinces for significant investments that are coming.
According to Maru, the province at the moment has invested in promising commodities within its borders, and the mobile squad was a key component in assuring major investors that the environment was as safe as it was conducive for trade.
One of the biggest problems we have in the country is the high law and order incidents, and every time you talk to investors, they always want to make sure the place is safe before they come and invest millions and millions of kina. So as a responsible government, the only Leon government has taken a decision to provide a mobile barracks within the Sepik region so we can have police available for call out at any time.
He added that once the barracks was established, the department would work closely with the police to select suitable police officers to operate in the province. Maru said the project will commence in 4 weeks' time and should be completed by February of 2017. Melissa Goviro, National EMTV News.
The Department of Health today announced a dengue outbreak in Kiunga, Western Province. Health Secretary Pasco Kase said rapid diagnostic tests by the PNG Institute of Medical Research have identified dengue as the cause of patients ill with fever in Kiunga and Port Moresby since late February. Similar to the Zika virus, dengue causes fever, headaches and body pains, and in some cases low blood pressure or bleeding. In severe cases, patients may require hospitalization or worse, lead to death. Secretary Kase advised that the increase in mosquito-borne diseases circulating in PNG was most likely due to an increase in mosquitoes breeding with recent rains rather than new diseases being brought into the country. And now look at the finance news. The kina closed at $0.3265 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3190 $0.4249 Australian dollars, $0.2823 euro and 35.84 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and cocoa closed higher, coffee closed lower, while copra closed the day unchanged. Palm oil closed unchanged, while crude oil and copper closed the day higher. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed 5 points lower, the ASX closed 22 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed 19 points higher. You're watching National EMTV News. New Ireland Governor slams forestry sector over transfer pricing and tax evasion claims. That story and more when we come back. Welcome back to National EMTV News. New Ireland Governor Sir Julius Chan has slammed the forest industry in the country following allegations of transfer pricing. Sir Julius was challenging Forest Minister Douglas Tumuriesa concerning a recent report from the Oakland Institute which was critical of the way the forestry industry is run in PNG. In a media statement released this afternoon, Sir Julius claimed that transfer pricing in the industry was rampant. He said logging companies were undervaluing what they were exporting so that they don't have to pay high taxes and ship the logs on shipping lines they own and then sell the logs at high prices at the point of sale, usually in China. The New Ireland governor questioned how the majority of logging companies operating in PNG declared losses almost every year and were still able to stay in business. Minister Tumuriesa responded to the Oakland Institute report, saying that logging exports were being strictly monitored. The World Health Organization issued a worldwide alert at the opening of the Zika conference on Monday that they were not ready to tackle the virus. The international health community convened in Geneva to assess the progress of vaccine development, diagnosis methods, and other preparedness measures. At the moment, there is still no proven vaccine or treatment for the mosquito-borne virus.
The announcement came as a wake-up call to the scientists and experts in public health regulations, research and development to find a common response to the public health emergency. Much remains unknown about Zika, including whether the virus actually causes microcephaly in babies, a condition defined by unusually small heads that can result in development problems.
And we hope that the result from this meeting will be an identification of which are the most promising products, drug, vaccine, treatments, vector control methods, or medical countermeasures, or as our friend in Barda called them, and will help all of us to make sure that we invest in the right strategies in order to do something quickly for what seems to be a real public health emergency.
Brazil has confirmed more than 640 cases of microcephaly and considers most of them to be related to Zika infections in the mothers. Brazil is investigating more than 4,200 additional suspected cases of microcephaly. An executive director with WHO, Bruce Aluward, revealed that the region of Recife in Brazil, where high numbers of microcephaly were recorded, is poorly equipped with the basic diagnostic tools. Dr. Keeney was disappointed in that, having been through the same ordeal to contain Ebola, they still weren't prepared to tackle the Zika virus.
So after we've struggled with Ebola and we said never again, we should be ready. There should be R&D preparedness. We must work on having tools, vaccine, diagnostics that are quite advanced on the pathway to registration. And here we are again, and we are not prepared. So this is really a wake-up call. So we need, of course, to work on this particular epidemic. This is the urgency now. But this also indicates the need to continue to work on R&D preparedness.
The WHO's International Health Regulation Emergency Committee is reviewing evolving information and its recommendations on travel, trade and mosquito control for what experts predict to be high season for transmission of the virus in the Southern Hemisphere. Melissa Goviro, EMTV World News.
Back home, and the Energy Workers Union and its sister unions will petition Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to remove senior executives from state-owned agencies. The coalition of unions will hand over the petition next Monday, demanding job security for PNG nationals. Today, the coalition members threw their support behind their leaders to take the matters further.
The threat by the Energy Workers Union and its sister unions for an industrial strike is continuing. This time, the coalition of unions want to take the matter upstairs, and they are prepared to petition the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, next Monday. Today, the coalition members met. Majority are employees of PNG Power who demanded job security. With the recent spill and fill exercise carried out by Telecom PNG, the energy workers fear the same might happen to them. Energy Workers Union General Secretary Santi Magis says employment of PNG nationals was threatened, and such exercise carried out by Telecom must be prevented from happening in other state-owned enterprises.
Of course, the concern is that all the employees in PNG Telecom have now been displaced. And we know that because of industrial process, the court process, they are still on the payroll. But they've been told that they will leave employment. And we don't want that problem to come into PNG Power, not PNG Ports Corporation, not the National Airline employees.
The coalition's call is for the removal of several heads of SOEs in the country. He says the coalition will be petitioning the Prime Minister on their claims.
The reason why the coalition wants the government to look on Papua New Guineans as citizens, protect their employments, and protect their interests, because this is Papua New Guinea.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
To the U.S. now, and President Barack Obama and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau have announced a joint plan to combat climate change. The duo made the announcement during Trudeau's visit to Washington, D.C. Trudeau was given a red carpet welcome upon his arrival at the White House. Here with Friday's news, we have Trukai Sports up next. We'll bring you a preview of the biggest showdowns in the NSL this season and the game fishing titles to be staged in Rabaul. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with football, and the Telecom National Soccer League is set to light up tomorrow in what many are already dubbing the Grand Final Preview, as defending champions Ley City Dwellers meet 9-time NSL winners Hekari United in the final match of the final stage. Both sides had comprehensive 5-0 wins as a warm-up to this weekend, and the best of the NSL will be on show.
Both sides have excelled in the competition since November last year, with the teams improving after almost every match. Hekari have beaten the Dwellers twice before in the 2014-15 season, both of which were big wins for the Reds. However, the 0-0 draw in their encounter 7 days ago at the Sir Ignatius Kelage Stadium states that this weekend will see two very evenly matched sides face each other off. Ley City Dwellers' trashing of Rapatona speaks volumes. They have scored 10 goals against PKA in only 2 matches, and while they missed the services of Troy Gunamba in midfield, have experience in Michael Foster and Joachim Waroy in the centre controlling well. For Hekari, it has been a transitional phase this year, as Jerry Allen has blooded his full repertoire of local players, with Barry Mansale, Leo Mole and Tutizama Tanito having only minimal on-field presence. It is expected to be a tough encounter, with the Bicini grounds to play host to a tantalizing display of football. Jeremy Moggy, National, EMTV Sports.
Game fishing enthusiasts have much to look forward to this month, with the 2016 game fishing titles to be held in the beautiful waters of East New Britain. The titles will return to the province where it all began in 1976 and will run for 10 days. The titles is expected to see many teams from Ley and Port Moresby make the trip across to compete.
The annual game fishing titles attracts anglers from right around the country and even Australia to compete. Papua New Guinea is known for having some of the best fishing spots throughout the country. Following the 40th game fishing titles held in the nation's capital last year, this time around fishing teams will make the trip to the New Guinea Islands region for this year's event in Rabaul, East New Britain province. The tournament will feature a variety of different formats spread across a week-long schedule. The game fishing titles is one of the biggest water sports events in the country, and every year competition gets tougher and tougher. This year the competition is expecting to attract not only local anglers but international competition as well. The title begins on the 18th of March and will run through till the 29th. Dion Kombeng, National, EMTV Sports.
You're watching Trukai Sports. We'll be back with more after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Central Provincial Government and Administration had their inaugural Sports Day today. Provincial Administrator Gay Raga says the main aim of the Sports Day was to keep workers fit and healthy. Governor for Central Province Kila Hauda was present as well to officially kick off the event.
This is Central Province Administration and the
It is not often that a company, government department or business house has a sports day. The Central Provincial Government came up with the idea of having one since many of their workers are out of shape and unfit.
You know, many people die young because they don't exercise or they don't play sports. Once they become managers or they become CEOs or senior managers, they say that sports is for people who are down the line, who don't, have this kind of work. Sports is for everybody.
They were divided into 4 groups: black lagatoys, red parellas, blue marlins and white stars. Many of the workers support the idea of the sports day. Raga stressed not to use the day as an excuse to go home, as it was compulsory.
This is public service sports and public service time. Everybody in Central Province, including Hiri District, must be here when the day comes. It's not your time to get away from office and go home.
Touch rugby was the sport chosen for the sports day. Central Governor Kila Hauda kicked off the first match between Parelas and Marlins.
Open.
Marlins came out victorious, beating Parelas 1-0. Lagatoys played Stars in the next match to end the day. The sports day will become part of the Central Provincial Government's weekly schedule. The event will be held after a week on Fridays, which start at 1 p.m. and runs for an hour at the IPI College in Port Moresby. Elijah Lavet, National EMTV Sports.
To cricket now, and the PNG national women's cricket team, the Lewas, are the reigning champions of the East Asia Pacific after winning the plate finals at the 2015 ICC Women's World T20 in Thailand and are ranked 13th in the world. Following this achievement, City Pharmacy Limited has jumped on board with a 2-year support of 200,000 kina per year. CPL Chairman Mahesh Patel says the funding will be to assist Cricket PNG in developing a high performance.
This partnership is, whilst we're committing for 2 years, we're hoping to extend this for ever ongoing, because it is our national team. It is a women's sport, whilst a lot of men play as well, but it's great to see women participate in that. And CPL's focus always have been in women's empowerment, encouraging women take leadership positions, and I think this will be a great foundation to build, and I'm sure the girls will do us proud.
And that wraps up Trukai Sports for tonight. Up next, here were the details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Port Moresby, you can expect a shower or two. Mostly fine in Daru, mostly fine as well in Kerema and Alotau and Popondetta. To the Momase region, showers expected in Ley and Wau, mostly fine in Madang, and a shower or two expected in Wewak and Vanimore. To the New Guinea Islands region, a shower or two expected in Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokopo and Rabaul, a shower or two as well in Kimbe, and mostly fine in Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, cloudy weather over the next 24 hours. To a look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, all coastal waters of PNG, sea 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. In the Coral Sea, seas slight with northwest to northeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Solomon Sea, seas slight with northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas slight with northeast to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northeast to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. US President Barack Obama and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau have announced a joint plan to combat climate change. The duo made the announcement during Trudeau's visit to Washington, D.C. Trudeau was given a red carpet welcome upon his arrival at the White House.
Period in U.S.-Canada relations and celebrating shared goals on climate change and trade, President Barack Obama offered a red carpet welcome for Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the White House yesterday. The two nations started the day by agreeing joint steps to fight climate change, including cutting methane emissions from oil and gas operations and signing last year's Paris climate deal as soon as feasible.
I'm especially pleased to say that the United States and Canada are fully united in combating climate change. As the first U.S. president to visit the Arctic, I saw how both of our nations are threatened by rising seas, melting permafrost, disappearing glaciers, and sea ice. And so we are focusing on making sure the Paris Agreement is fully implemented, and we're working to double our investments in clean energy research and development. Today we're also announcing some new steps. Canada is joining us in our aggressive goal to bring down methane emissions in the oil and gas sectors in both of our countries. And together we're going to move swiftly to establish comprehensive standards to meet that goal.
Agreeing, Trudeau echoed Obama's comments on the alliance.
The President and I have announced today that we'll take ambitious action to reduce methane emissions nearly by half from the oil and gas sector, reduce use and emissions of hydrofluorocarbons, and implement aligned greenhouse gas emission standards for heavy-duty vehicles, amongst other plans to fight climate change.
Methane, which can leak from pipelines and valves, is a powerful greenhouse gas with up to 80 times the potential of carbon dioxide to trap the planet's heat. The country is also committed to cutting emissions of methane by 40 to 45% below 2012 levels by 2025, to take steps to fight climate change in the Arctic and to speed development of greenhouse technologies. Trudeau's visit was capped by a state dinner yesterday evening, making him the first Canadian leader to be granted that honor since 1997. Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
And before we go, a recap of our top stories. PNG prisons lack infrastructure and facilities for proper rehabilitation of prisoners. Operations at Ok Tedi mine suspended following workers' death. And European Union calls on PNG government for more action against gender-based violence. And that ends today's news. On behalf of the EMTV News team, have a pleasant weekend. Good night.